Hi, I'm Tom Migot from Tom Migot Photography, and this is a new episode of the weekly review. We're talking about week number 6, and no, I am not alone this week. I told you guys that I was going to have a guest star, and guess who that is? Well, it's the man with the eye, and this is Eric Rossi, straight from PA. Hi, Eric, how you doing?
How's it going? I'm doing good, doing perfectly good.
Fantastic.
Ready for the exposures this week.
All right, are you enjoying the weather? I've heard on the news that it's bloody hot on the East Coast, and it's well, raining fire on the West Coast.
Oh, it's only 97. Nothing.
Nothing much. You've got an aircon anyway.
I've got the air conditioner on and cold water.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, nothing more is needed for this review. So let's jump in, shall we? Going to Lightroom 4, and so for you guys, so you understand, Eric is not seeing my screen. He's actually got the image and he's reviewing them in Lightroom. Which version of Lightroom are you using, Eric?
3.
Version 3, here you go. So if it's too harsh with you, then you can accuse him of using the wrong version of Lightroom. But I'm using Lightroom 4 anyway, so that shouldn't change much.
That's fine, perfect.
Fantastic. All right, well, I'll start with this one. Eric's going to add his comment right after, and we switch like this, and you'll get both our feelings to what you have. Anyway, so this one is from, that one is from Scott, actually. This is the Mini Cooper. I believe Scott last week sent us another shot of the Mini Cooper, which was a bit narrower. It was really showing half of the Mini Cooper. And there was something to do with saturation in the background, and we could see color through the windshield. So that's what we had. So here, this is an HDR, and Scott used 5 frames for that. So what can I say about it? Well, he did say that he didn't have enough RAM or CPU. I read that on Pictography, guys. You remember Pictography, right? Pictography Corner, the place to go on Facebook if you want to talk about photography and learn about photography in general, whether you're amateur, novice, or professional. It's just the right place to be. And Eric can confirm because Eric goes there very often.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I was saying that I've seen this shot there, and that's where I read that it was done in HDR with 5 frames and could not take care of the ghosting in post-production. So Scott, what can I say about this? Well, clearly we see the subject. The subject is really the Mini Cooper. There's no doubt about it. About the HDR, I don't know why you went for the HDR. I don't know if it was just a trial because you've never done HDR before. But guys, there's one rule with HDR. Because the concept of HDR is combining different exposures, and what you end up having is if your subject is moving, if it's not still, you're going to have what we call ghost. And that's what you can see not with the car because the car is still, but you can see it in the clouds. So if you actually look, you see those kind of ripples in the clouds, duplication of the clouds. And that's what ghosting is. So once again, I don't know why you chose HDR. My advice on this one is if you really want to go for HDR for whatever reason, and you're shooting RAW because you know what RAW is, and if you don't, I invite you to see my video. Here you got a screen. I need to place a former video link, so here it is. And basically shoot RAW and then go in your favorite post-production tool, whether it's Lightroom or others, even just Camera Raw in Photoshop, and alter the exposure. Go +1, go -1, and each time you save it as a different exposure. And that's going to give you at least 3 frames. And with enough information, I say +1 because you're going to really see some difference. You can go even more depending what you have. And at the end, you're going to have 3 times the same image but with different exposure. And if you do HDR using those, you won't have the problem of ghosting because obviously it's the same exposure. So that's the tip of the day. We'll make a video on this, but that's the tip of the day. If you want to do HDR and you know this is going to be movement in the background. Other than that, what can I say? I don't know. For HDR, what surprises me is it's bloody dark under the car. So I don't know how much you actually pushed it. I don't quite see. What bothers me a bit is maybe the location. You've got a location that looks like very similar to a landscape in Scotland. You've got the hills, and for some reason we've got a building on the left. It's dark, and my eyes is going straight for it. So that annoys me a bit. I would have preferred having just the car in the middle of nowhere, and cropping it here wouldn't make any sense because your car would be way too big comparing to the background. So I don't know. I'm not quite sure about this one, to be honest. I prefer last week. Eric, what do you think?
I have to tend to disagree with you, actually. I feel that the car actually draws me in. I do see what you mean about the ghosting. You know, you can tell it's HDR-ish, but for the most part, I don't think you can tell it's HDR-ish. You know what I mean?
Yes, which is a good thing, right? Too many
Perfect,
times we see HDR and people are just going metallic. But my comment was just, if you use HDR, it's got to be a purpose, right? Otherwise, here I don't know
I
what the
know.
purpose was beside the ghosting, which obviously is a side effect.
I know why. I know why he want. It's kind of like the Ansel Adams, you know, the zone and everything like that in the range. He wanted to bring out, you know, that contrast, you know, 0 to 10 in the background. And if you see those hills, if he didn't do that, I feel that you wouldn't have gotten the detail that he got. But I do agree that he did go a little too far. Because one of the things I would say is to up the exposure a little bit. Like I messed around with it a little bit, and I just upped it a little bit, and it brought out a little more detail and it looked a little more crisp. So that was my main thing. I didn't even know that was a building on the left, to be honest. I didn't know what it was. But no, the car definitely grabbed my attention. I love the little reflection coming off the headlight. I think that's pretty cool. I like how he got down. He probably crouched down, to take this photo. Very good angle. Like the composition, not, rule of thirds, pretty cool. The only thing I wish that would be different is maybe, yeah, the wheels are turned to the car, but make it less 2D and turn the car maybe a little more, just to give it more of that 3D depth, because the left side of the frame, I think, definitely works. But I just feel the car might be a little bit 2D.
Yeah, we could see a little bit more of the wing, of the rear of the car, just a tiny bit, so we get more volumes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And Scott, just for the tip as well here, I can see on my screen just above the car, I think you've got a dirty sensor unless you used some filter on your. I don't think it's the lens, because the lens you wouldn't see that much. I think it's more a dirty sensor you've got. But other than that, I think it could have been a fantastic shot. Put aside the ghosting, the reflection of the light, I think is brilliant. I wouldn't bother with the glare, to be honest. Maybe the two dots of the glare, but I wouldn't bother with the whole, sunbeam going down. I'm okay with that.
Yep.
But yeah, it's the build. The only reason why I was talking about the building is obviously it's not the first thing you see. You see the car first.
Yeah.
But it's just, if you want to have this feeling of being in the middle of nowhere with that car, the building is a bit too much.
I understand.
Anyway, cool stuff.
Yep.
All right, let's go to the next one, and I'll let you start, Eric. That's the motorbike from Eric Gordon.
All right. I actually saw this shot earlier in the Pictography Forum, as you brought that up, and I instantly said that is a really, really nice shot to him. The one thing that does kind of distract me, and at least it's in a white color, is his name. But he told me what that was for. It was for a presentation. And you know what? I have a big thing against watermarks because it distorts images. But you know what? He chose a really nice color, so it doesn't really stand out. But overall, I feel like he captured something really cool. I believe that this was made. Is it a composite?
Oh, it has to.
Yeah, I figured it had to be a composite.
Otherwise, I want to see the landing, because obviously it's 3D different.
Someone's gonna get hurt really bad. No, I like it. I don't like the overlap so much of like the guy's knee into the guy's helmet. Maybe just spread them out a little more, because it's a little too bullseye for me. Maybe I want to see the clouds pop a little more, because they're wearing red and gray. They would pop really well anyway. Just up the contrast. Maybe try to get the clouds, touch the detail a little bit, or clarity, and I think you'd have a winning shot. I think it's pretty cool. But I'd like to see a little bit more separation. What do you think?
I absolutely agree with you. I think that was the thing that bothered me a bit, and when I saw it in Pictography, I didn't want to comment, because I had a sneak preview at the forum on my site, Tom Migot Photography Forum, and I knew that exposure was submitted, so I wanted to keep my head clear. But I agree with you. The knee covering the helmet of the other dude bothers me. We've got the elbow as well, kind of covering one hand, but also covering part of the front of the motorbike. And basically, so the three exposures are just a bit too close to each other. I would have spread them a little bit more. And I've got one question for Eric. And I'm talking about Eric Gordon here, just so we're clear, so I'm not making mix up like last week.
Yep.
So the idea when we see your shot is what kind of a progression of, well, it looks like whoever looks at the exposure first would think that it's the same person. It's kind of a progression of the shot. And if that's the case, then I'm asking a question: then couldn't you make it? What camera do you have? Couldn't you use a fast shooting mode and just capture 3 or even more exposures of the same dude in the movement of his shot? I don't know. That's an open question that I'm making. Then regarding what you're trying to do here, it's interesting because if they were spread a little bit more, you will still have this fake effect of one single movement, but you also have different position, right? I understand that this sport is not so much about the speed, and it's more about also the nice movement and combos you can make while you once you taken off. So I quite like that concept. If that is to showcase all the different kind of position that you can do, the Superman and the slide on the edge, I quite like that. Exposure wise, I don't have anything to say. I think it's you froze the action well. That's all you could do anyway. You could not do anything else. No panning over here. I think it's correct. There's no blown out. Even on the motorbike, it's some part of the white. It's okay. The clouds are a bit grey at the top. I don't know. I think it works fine. Would I want to be more, the blue from the sky popping out a bit more? I don't know, because afterwards it might be too much colors jamming everything, and the red here pops really well. So yeah, nothing to say.
I'm kind of rethinking this, and I don't think it, as you said, I don't think it's a progression necessarily. I think, as you said, it's more of showing what you can do, what are the different moves. And yeah, separating it would work, but if you're doing that, this could kind of work for maybe like a magazine ad, you know what I mean? Something like that. I don't want to see the sky background. I want to see those dirt ramps, something. I want to see a crowd in the background. Because I understand, you're high, you're shooting up, but...
You want to know how high. And there's no element.
Yeah.
But it's like shooting, it's like somebody trying to capture a flying plane. And you're just like, well, first of all, you won't see any movement, and then there's no context.
So yeah, as you were saying that, yep, I definitely want. See, with sports like this, you need the environment. You could, there's even, you do track shots with pole jumpers. You still have the pole in the frame to know that, okay, there is a limitation on what they can do. It looks like these guys could be 10,000 feet in the air. I don't know, you know what I mean? So yeah, I definitely agree with that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So. I want the environment. As you say, give me the message. I want to see more of the environment. It's a good composite. They cut out really well. Environment would set it for me, actually.
Yeah. No, that is a very good point on this one. Absolutely. All right, moving on. I think it's another one from Eric, and I remember posting some comment. That's the Newcastle in UK, and I remember doing a comment to Eric a couple of months ago, actually, regarding that exposure. And I'm glad that's been retouched. It's been retouched, and I hope Eric can confirm that, Eric Gordon, because I can't remember exactly why I didn't like so much about his first attempt, but it was a bit too dark. The colors were not that great. I think I could see if he had used, I can't remember if he had used an ND grad, but I could see the separation. There was something off. Whereas here, I quite like it. It's a bit too dark at the very top. It's a bit too dark, I would say, because we know the sun is on the it's a a sunset, I believe. And so it's on the right side, and to me it doesn't make sense if the top corner right is so dark comparing to the top corner left, for example. So that's the only thing, but that's really being anal about this. Other than that, I think the exposure is great. The green, you probably played with saturation to bring the green back, which I think it's a good choice. That could have been an HDR, actually. I don't remember if it... Hang on, let me just check. Going back to the forum, if... I'm on pictography here. Did he say... no. Oh, yes, it is an HDR. So you see, it is an HDR, because I was wondering how he could manage to get the part of the castle, the back of the castle, lit up when the sun is on the other side. So I think it's really nice. I quite like it. The water, there's something about the water, right? With long exposure, you expect to get this kind of silky effect, cotton effect on the water, which usually looks really nice. Here, there's some white bits in the water that I found the water dirty, which is kind of weird, right? It's not, I don't know. It's just there's something off with those white...
It looks frozen. Like, it looks like a pond. Like ice skating. It doesn't seem like it kind of belongs there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and if you look closer to the rocks, right, closer to the shore, you can see that kind of foam, effect that you would expect. Whereas here, farther away from the shore, it is like an ice rink, which can be fine, but it's just there's some white like foam or something on the water, and to me it feels dirty more than anything else. So I'm not so sure about the water effect on this, unfortunately. But the rest of it, I quite like it. Maybe if I had shot that, maybe I would have removed the plain trails in the sky, and that's above the castle for those of you guys, and there's just two lines, and not particularly the very long one, but just there's two bright lines going to the left, and those I think I would have removed them because they bothered me a bit. And for some reason at the very top left corner, like an inch away from the corner, there's something in the sky. So I don't know what it is. It's there's something, there's a stain there, but that's it. That's what the thing would prevent me from publishing this on my gallery if I wanted to actually sell that exposure. Those are the few things. So what do you think, Eric?
The first thing I did see was the water, the progression from right to left. How it does look semi-real towards the beginning, like you said, but then when it comes together, it's just like, it doesn't really look like water. It looks like a frozen, ocean or whatever. And yeah, I do see what you mean about the white parts. I don't know if it looks dirty, or I don't know if you referred to dirty as maybe just a little messy because of the HDR.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I definitely agree with that. I also saw those two streaks up top. I would take those away because you captured something pretty cool. And yeah, you did HDR and you manipulated it, but you got, the white tone on the left, you got the blue in the middle, the pink, red, orange, great tones there. I really like the composition. I like how, the horizontal line, it's not dead middle. That's one thing you always want to avoid. It's towards the lower half. And I feel like, everything's, framed pretty well. Just the water, those two little streaks up top, which I do agree with 100%, bother me. And I think the HDR, once again, was used perfectly to the fact is, besides the water, that you kind of can't tell it's HDR. I just love, the sky looks really, really nice. I don't think you need to really touch that up or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely a nice time of day to go and capture it.
It's the best time, right? The golden hours is gold for us.
Yep.
Going to the next one. That's still Eric. That's in Glasgow, guys. And for all of you who've never been to Glasgow, well, just be aware that depending on where you go, you can actually find this kind of people. So that's why there was a movie, right? What was the movie? That was something about virus. And there was a guy who did Clockwork Orange that was in that movie as well. But anyway, there's something about UK, right? I think it's because it's an island, and there's always this idea of it's going to be a virus contained like 28 weeks later or something
Stay
like
where
this.
you're at.
Yeah. So nice idea here. So actually, you start on this one.
All right. The first thing I kind of notice, and I'm always a stickler for this because it's the first thing I do as soon as I bring it into an editing program. There definitely looks like to be lens distortion. I don't know if that was intentional because you're shooting kind of wide angle. The subject's close. I would probably like to see it flattened out and corrected. You can just do that by a couple quick clicks.
I'm actually going there to try to do it.
See, I don't see any metadata, so I don't see what lens he used.
I don't have any. Let me just double check what he says. He says he shot with. Oh, that's gonna make you happy. It's a Nikon D700.
Okay.
It's a wide angle lens, so obviously it's a 20-35 millimeter. The D700, that's a crop sensor, right?
D700 is full frame.
Oh, it's full frame. Okay, my bad. I don't know anything about Nikon. So it's a full frame on 20-35 f2.8 Nikon lens, and it was shot at f13 at 20 millimeters. So okay, I'm quite surprised by the distortion, to be honest, at 20 mil comparing to my Sigma 10-20 on a crop sensor. I don't even get this type of distortion when I'm at the equivalent of 16. So it's
no, it's just because the subject's closer to the frame, and I do it my 17-55 all the time. You get slight distortion just because, well, first of all, you're ultra wide, even 20 is ultra wide, and it's just a distance, and it shows up as that the bending effect. So that does bother me a little bit. The next thing I look at is always a slight vignette, and I see this is kind of been heavily vignetted. The whole point of using a vignette is to actually not really see it. It's to subconsciously, bring your eye to the middle without really even seeing it. So just slight touches. So the vignette seems kind of heavy to me. But other than that, I think the sharpness is dead on. I zoomed in, the eyes are dead sharp. The eye connection is great. I loved a little bit of catch light. I kind of wish there was a little bit, move the catch light down a little bit so it caught her other eye too. I don't know if that was his intention or not, but I would like to see maybe a little more detail onto that right side, well, left side of her face, the right side of the photo of her face. But I feel, let me look at, weirdly enough to say, I feel her legs are too clean for this too. I mean, all her arms are dirty, bloody. It just seems like her legs, I don't know. I would like to see them dirtier. Now, she's in a dirty environment. So even if you're thinking about doing something like that, dirty up the legs too a little bit just to fully sell it. There's also something on the right-hand side. There's a little bit of schmutz or a leaf thing on the far right. I don't know if you see it.
Yeah.
Once again, I'm kind of being, more nitpickier. But I think this is a pretty cool capture. I mean, obviously, this isn't real unless she's on bath salts. I don't know if you've heard of that outbreak.
Yes.
Okay, good. So if she's not on bath salts, this is a really nice. It was a really nice, capture, nice pose. Sell me more. Make sure the legs are dirtier for something like this.
So I have absolutely to agree with you. I don't know about the vignetting because yes, there is some vignetting, but it kind of matches with the floor for some reason. Where she is, the floor is lighter than the rest. So if we're talking about full vignetting surrounding the image, I actually didn't see it. I saw the dark spot in the top right corner. So clearly there, that which doesn't bother me at all. The whole left side, if there is some vignetting, there is, but I don't see it, and I don't know about it. Maybe if we had been a bit farther from where she is, and maybe using a vignetting a bit more to really capture the attention on her, like if it was like a spotlight on her on that vignetting, yes, maybe. Yeah, the legs, the fact that they're not, they are very clean. That bothers, that puts me off a bit. And I wouldn't go as far as saying she's got metal jewelry, which I find because the bracelet for some reason doesn't look like a fancy bracelet. It could just be, whatever, kind of very urban stuff. But it's dead shiny. You know, it's like she's a zombie. She's definitely didn't go home and kind of wash it and make it that clean. So I would have said darker and just getting some some part of it a bit brighter. Yeah, she's a bit too clean on that. I like the blood effect, right? Let's point out this is not from a movie. This is amateur photography, and I think that's very nicely done in terms of makeup on the face. As far as I can tell, yeah, for amateur it's pretty good. The hair, I would have gone dirty on the hair. You know, the hair
Yeah.
are clean as well, even though it's a washed up color. It's I don't know. It's a bit clean. We could even imagine being very wild in terms of haircuts, kind of being more urban and kind of a fake dreadlocks. You know, this kind of thing, grunge it a bit more than what it is there. Yeah, the distortion. Um, yeah, it is there. It bothers me because it doesn't add anything, and the reason why I'm saying it doesn't add anything is because I'm personally doing. I'm working on doing a photo shoot where the distortion was not planned, but the result actually brought some creativity, and it was a prep shot. So we actually it kind of changed the way we actually planning our photo shoot, and we're gonna play with that distortion. So you guys will know what I'm talking about when I publish this, and hopefully we'll be able to publish that but before the autumn. But that was using a distortion effect to really help the message. Here, the distortion doesn't help. The angle helps, right? It's the angle that really helps. The lighting helps, but distortion here absolutely not. And it's not so big that it looks like kind of a monster hand, because you could have expected that, right? If the distortion was way too much, then having it is fair enough, because you see kind of a Resident Evil kind of thing, totally unhuman. But here, it's not enough, or it's too much. It's too much to be known, and it's not enough to be really a strange gore effect.
Yeah.
Other than that, I quite like it. Am I disturbed by the floor being, where the chewing gum and stuff? I would say no, which is weird for me because I'm very anal with cleaning pigeon poo and everything rubbish on the street. But because of the context, I would say it's actually pretty clean for the contest. The context. I would have loved to see a bit more rubbish, papers and so on. But it's very difficult because you need to make sure that it's not going to disturb your view. You want to make sure that it's not going to catch your eyes much than that. So it's all about using props. So it's a tricky one here. But that being said, overall, I quite like the shot. I like the angle. Yeah, I like a lot about it. It's a nice effect. Nice effect. Anything else?
No, yeah, I definitely want to say, it was the lighting is actually very, very nice. I mean, I know I said I like catch lights, but if you think about it, it's lit right in the right areas, right in the front. Even her legs are a little darker, which is perfectly fine with me. Yeah, I really like the image. Just a couple little tweaks, and you'd have something that could sell.
And Eric Gordon, actually, please put your lightning details. I'd like to know how you actually shot that. What was the environment like? Is the background I'm talking about the far right top right corner where it's dark. Was it actually like this? Did you actually do it in post-prod? Where did you shoot it in Glasgow? For those of us who live not far from that dangerous city of Glasgow, we'd like to go out there and shoot this kind of thing. Yeah, tell us a bit more about the behind the scene, and maybe either make a video, or I could actually invite you doing a video where you could walk us through the whole process, because I know you shot quite a lot of zombie for a whole day. So I'd like to know more about this. So I got to talk to you offline about that. The next one is Ricky. Ricky was on the set, I believe, with Eric Gordon to do the zombie thing. Or at least he was on a set. He wasn't that set. He was on a set somewhere, and he was helping Eric with the lights. And so that was one of the test shots. And Eric said, actually, let me just double check what he wrote on the forum about this one. He said, Ricky was kind enough to sit for a minute while I was setting up my lights for a shoot. So I grunged him up. This is just for a laugh. And that was used with the D700 again, using the telephoto 80 to 200 millimeter 2.8 at 135, shot at f5.6 at 1/80th of a second. So I'll start with this one. I don't know what you say, Eric, about grunging him up. What did you do? Did you do it in post-prod? Did you do it with the lighting condition? I don't know. Did you use some makeup? Because I can't clearly see if there's any makeup involved here, because it's covering all his hands and ears and so on. So I can't really tell. It's, you say 5.6 with telephoto. I mean, good depth of field. I think it's nice, and I'm really saying this, that it's a good depth of field. We're going to see why in a few minutes when we tackle the other exposures. But good choice of lens, whatever it is. I know it's Nikon, but it would have been the same with a Canon or Sigma or others. It's telephoto for portrait. We know that works. Usually it works because it helps bringing the background, closer to the subject, kind of compact everything and gives you a nice bokeh or bokeh for Red Dev. And so I think it's a good lens for portrait. Whether here it doesn't really matter anyway. That could have been shot with a nifty 50 for the hell I care. But it's nice. It's nice exposure. It's sharp. I can't really zoom too much in it, but it's sharp as far as I can tell. Yeah. And yeah, the lighting works. The exposure is correct. Maybe depending on what the purpose of the photo shoot was. If it was just for portrait's sake, maybe some backlight behind them, just to help, bring some halo or bring something to the hair. Here we can see the hair, but it's, I don't know. I kind of like when you use black background to make sure you manage to separate the hair, which you did for the front part of the hair, but then we can't see the back a bit more. I don't know, but it's a nice shot, and it's pleasing. It's pleasing. What do you think?
See, the only way that I figured out that he was grunged up was when I actually just upped the exposure plus 1.1. If you up it, if you take a look, you'll see that there is a little bit of grunge on his forehead. Other than that, it looks, just back to the original, it just looks way, way too dark for me. It looks extremely underexposed, and it looks flat, just to be honest. You want the person to pop, and as you said, there's no backlight in this image. You need, the face to pop out. It's a portrait, you know what I mean? It's a nice little portrait. You got to bring up the exposure on that. Just watch that a little bit. Also, the eyes look heavily masked. They look like they were brought up a lot. I don't know if that's just me, but it looks like, that can be toned down a little bit. Maybe you're trying to, up the catch light in his eye, but I feel like the catch light would have sold it anyway.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? It's all about what was the purpose of that shot. And as you said, it was in preparation of a shoot. And so it wasn't planned. So if that was meant to be a portrait, then there's a lot of things that could have been done differently in terms of light.
True.
Because that's clearly underexposed for a portrait. If it is just for a laugh and helping you setting up the light, and for coming back from the coming right after the zombie one, that kind of works. If it had been after the other shots that we're going to see afterwards, we would have said clearly underexposed. And the eyes don't bother me that much. Maybe
they look heavily brightened.
Are you talking about the iris, or are you talking as well about the white? Because the white bothered me more than the iris.
The white part of the eye.
Okay, all right, yes.
Yeah, no. That is what bothered me. That's what I'm saying. It looks a little too red. You know what I mean? It's when you kind of overdo it just a little bit. You don't have to up the whites. The purpose of the catch light is to catch your eye. It's nice to brighten maybe a little bit, but the catch light's supposed to do that purpose. So, I mean, I was drawn into his eyes before, I was looking at the upped exposure, but the ring, I know that's tough to do. It's also a little shiny, so you might distract. You might kind of go from up to the eye, down to there, when you want to just be bam, right on that face, even though it was, just a quick shot or whatever. And just as I'm, critiquing this as a portrait, as you see where his hands come together, you see like the V of the shirt.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's not necessarily centered. Once again, I am being very nitpicky here, and I know, as you said, it's just for fun. But you know, it's for anyone watching. You just got to watch for all that. A little bit of distraction. Just center that a little bit. You know, just tell them move it over. Same thing with jewelry on females. If you know you have a clasp hanging out, you want to get rid of that.
And I would even darken. You know what? I would even go as far as using
Yeah.
Lightroom, darken the part of the pullover in between the hands, because what we can see on both on the outside of the hands, it's dark, and for some reason it's just right under that chin where it's bright. There's no point of being it, and that's we're really picking because Eric deserves it. He's been sending every week amazing shots, and it's always very interesting what he does. But here, you know, just for the sake, it's not for Eric, but for the sake of all the viewers who want to do portraiture, there's the hair, right? Having that single, and I'm saying this genuinely because for those of you who want to do portraiture and go with models and this kind of thing, it's very difficult to make sure that you capture everything while you're preparing your shot, that you see all the details, everything that is wrong. And sometimes we're so focused, as photographer, we're so focused on the technicality, focusing on all the settings and everything, the framing and everything, so we don't have to crop in post-production. And so on, that we miss a few things. Can just be, you know, the fingers, how they're placed here, they kind of fine, but it's not centered, and you kind of want centered unless you go for a candid image, which is not the case here, because if it was candid, it would not look at you. What I was going to say about the hair is you've got one, you know, a few hair just making one mesh going in the middle of the forehead. That's something in post-production that I would get rid of.
Yep.
So that's just being picky, and he has a very, very, very long eyebrow, just one hair, and that's one thing as well that you guys you wanna do. Once again, it's when you do post-production, Eric's gonna agree with me that too many times we see people want to go and Photoshop people and just, you know, make them glossier than they appear to be, very plasticky and not real, with no texture on the skin. Do not go that far. But there's a few things that you want to make your model look as best as they can be if they were eating healthy and, you know, taking care of their skin, and that's a different matter. But so yeah, trimming the hair. Watch out when you do model photography, making sure that the makeup is correct, that the lipstick is not being eaten, and that you know, especially when you go for long sessions. I've been doing sessions lately, and they lasted for 2-3 hours sometimes. And you need to readjust and think about that. And it's very hard if you on your own with a model to really think about all the details like that.
Actually, let me add something. Do you feel that the fingers are scrunching the skin a little bit, or do you feel they're gently placed on there?
So yeah, so that's another thing as well. Here, just to answer your question, I think here they're pressed. And the problem with that, and as a matter of fact, I'll give you, for those of you who saw my shot with the reflection on life, which was my shot with the Asian girl. She's black and white, and there's a reflection of her underneath it, and she's posing. Well, I will do I could do a behind the scene of that shot, but just for the sake of the argument here, when I first shot that particular photo, the placement, the position, everything was good, except that my model was actually pressing her arm on a leg. And same with one leg touching the other leg. And as a result of it, then you could see the muscle on her arm being, moving a little bit and making her arm fatter where it was actually touching her other part of the body. And that's the thing that you want to watch out for. If you see a model in magazine holding the hands, with the hands just, around the jaw frame and this kind of thing, you realize that they don't hold their head. It's just placed. They barely touch it. It's totally fake, because if you try to hold your hand like this, it's going to move your muscles, it's going to move everything. That is not going to be pleasant. And here you can tell, because his pinky, he's on the left side, his pinky is pressing his cheek, and that's not pleasant. It's not. Here it's fine because of the context. But if you do portraiture, watch out for that position. Make sure that they're not pressing members against members, limbs against limbs, create a bad look afterwards.
Yep. That was just my next thing to say about that. That was it. Yep.
All right. Next one. I'll let you go. I'll let you have fun with this one. This is Matt Costa. I'll let you have fun with that.
Well, as I once again, I've seen this briefly once, and I talked to Matt about it. I say, you know what, you do have pretty nice lighting. What are you using, etc. He is all practical ambient light. If you actually would be able to guess that or not, it's very interesting. And I think he did one of his father a little bit ago.
Yeah, that was brilliant.
And yeah, that was just on the last one. And you know what? That was the exact same way as he did this. If you don't know it, there's actually, a closet in the background. That's a white closet, and he's using door light just funneling through, like, I think a screen door.
Wow, as reflectors.
Exactly. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. But the main thing that I noticed was that the fact that there's really no detail, because he's wearing a white shirt. He's blending into the background a little bit. Same with his hand on top of the camera. I wish there was a little more detail there. I can tell, let's see, he used a 50 at 1.8. I think the depth of field is really, really nice. I don't know if it's actually tack on the eye, to be honest. It looks more tack on the hair, on the top hair. So maybe just get in, make sure you get it right on the eye. Once again, the catch light is nice, but I'm also not feeling the I guess the strap on the bottom right either. I feel like that might be detracting a little bit. But other than that, for I guess the lighting setup you had, it's really, really nice lighting. Just make sure, maybe a different color shirt. A black shirt would have been great, fantastic for this image. Focal, yeah, just make sure the focus is on to where you really want it. As I said, it looks actually kind of soft around the eye, just more towards the hair up top. But yeah, I mean, pretty nice. You got some nice detail there.
So, all right. So what I would say about this one is it's very interesting what you said about the lighting condition. I think that's very interesting, and that proves that you don't need tons of equipment to do key lighting. What put me off with this one and is the aperture. That's what puts me off, and it's gonna put me off as well for the next 4 or 5 next exposures. So my comment is going to be the same for the others. We hear quite a lot, right, is using a nifty 50, so 50mm lens, whether it's Nikon, Canon, I think it might be a Canon here, I can't remember. But it doesn't matter the brand. We all like this lens because it's cheap. We're talking about the 1.8, by the way. So it's cheap. It's roughly about around £100 or $120, $150, something like this. It's crisp. It's brilliant. It gives you a nice bokeh, not as nice as if you were going for 1.4, 1.2, but it's still great. The problem with it is people, when they look at the aperture, the maximum aperture of a lens, they say, oh, it's 1.8, that's brilliant. I got to use that, right? Because the lens offers 1.8, I need to use it. Wrong. It's not because the lens gives you 1.8 that you want to shoot at 1.8. The reason being is that most of your lens is going to do f/22. Do you want to shoot f/22 when you do portrait? Absolutely not. So there are reasons when to use an aperture, and I believe I've done a video on how to explain when to use aperture, and I'm about to do a new videos as well on the aperture, but how to use it for portraiture, because too often have I seen the same mistake that Matt is doing here, and he's done it through the other exposures that he's posting afterwards that we're going to review. My guess is that when you shot that and you try to frame it, so if it's on, you probably have like 9 cross points of focus in your camera. So you're looking at it, and probably you wanted to focus on your eyes, but your eyes is not matching a position where you have a cross point. And so what you're doing is what we call focusing and recompose. And so what happened is, because you're on 1.8, and I'm just, I'm I'm suspecting that's what you did, to give you credit as to why you would have used 1.8. I think 1.8, first of all, it's a wrong aperture for here. There's no point. If depending on, I understand that you have a background, and you didn't want to have this background, the doors of your wardrobe being affecting the your end result. But still, 1.8, there's no point. Go for, if you really want to go for wide on here, go for 3, go for 4. Ideally, if you want to use a 50 millimeter, providing that the background lets you do that, I would rather you to go with f6, f7. But it all depends of the distance between you and the subject. And here you're doing an auto portrait, which I don't know how you shot it, whether it's with the camera that you have in your hand against a mirror. I don't know how that was done.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I would say this can happen. Let's say you set up the aperture correctly. But because you're so close, and because you're with such a wide aperture that is going to give you such narrow depth of field, if you frame it and you try to find that cross point in your viewfinder to get the focus on. So you're moving your camera, you found the cross point matching your eye, you get the focus, and then you recompose. If you press the shutter to make the shot, you may be surprised with the result. You will see that your result is not going to be sharp on your eye, and you're going to ask, well then why? Because I did focus on mine. Why? The reason is because of the position, the angle of your lens when you took the focusing, and that's what I suspect that here may have happened, but maybe not, because all the other exposure that you shot was done with a 1.8. So I think clearly here there's a misunderstanding around the effect of the aperture and the distance between you and your subject.
Yeah. One thing, I'm looking at the how it was shot. It was shot at a 30th of a second. I want to know why it's not a little higher. You're really not supposed to handhold above a 60th of a second, just as General Photography 102.
That's surprising. Look at the ISO, right? ISO 400.
Bring it up a little bit, yep.
Yeah, but then you wonder, right? Having such a white background, how can you get ISO 400 at 1.8? You would not expect, if that's the shot manually, which might be the case, then it's the wrong exposure altogether, and you corrected it in post-prod because it was too washed out, and you kind of brought it back, which might be the case. But I would expect a 1.8, a ISO 400 inside with the background so lit up, I would expect an exposure of 250th. Something like this. A 3-digit, at least, a 3-digit.
But if anything, don't be afraid to raise the ISO. And if you're shooting in black and white, and I can see Matt, he had the picture of his father last week. I don't think he has any more this week. If you're shooting in black and white, you are given a ton of leeway with ISO and grain.
Oh, yeah.
So don't worry about it. And you know what? In general, you shouldn't really worry about the ISO anyway, as long as you capture the image. That's the whole point, capturing what you're envisioning and getting the message. And if the grain comes with it, tough, but you have the image. So definitely agree. Yeah, up the shutter, definitely up the ISO a little bit. That'll definitely help.
What's your take on the 1.8?
Yeah, it's going to be tough. You at least want to, as you said, you hit it spot on. A lot of people say, 1.8, you got to shoot 1.8, 1.4. Yeah, you got to be at 1/4. Absolutely not. I find myself a lot at an f3.2 when I'm on an f8, or even an f2.8. I'm at like a 3.2 or something like that, just because I get that extra little focal distance, and especially if you're shooting a model and like the head's turned a little bit, you want to be able to get both eyes in clear focus. So that little bit more of a field, that just little bit, will get that for you, and it won't miss.
And the thing is, suffice to say that people who've heard shooting models and been using 1.8 or 2.4. Let's not forget, they probably didn't shoot it with a 50mm, right? They probably shot it with a telephoto. They probably went for an 80 or 70-200, and they were probably, they were not that close from the model. They were probably about 2, 3, 4, 5 meters away, if not more. And that's why you want a wide aperture, because the telephoto is going to compress the background, and the aperture, you need that narrow, you need somehow, because you're so far away, you need a wider aperture to get that shallow depth of field, because remember, the rule is the farther away you are from your subject, the less depth, the deeper depth of field you're gonna get. And so the closer you get, well, the shallower depth of field you get. So if you combine that distance and the higher aperture value, the wider aperture, which is the smaller aperture value, you end up with a very, very shallow depth of field. Same theory as the macro photography. So really watch out for that. And let's move on, because the other exposures are quite similar to this one. So I'm starting on this one. Here, I'd like to think that the subject of the exposure is not the donut, unless this was shot for Dunkin' Donut commercial. But the reason why I'm saying this is, remember, the depth of field is meant to, draw the attention from the viewer, and that's really meant to be where you want the subject to look at. Well, the only thing that I see sharp here is the donut, and then a little bit less sharp is the closer eye that we have. But it's definitely not as sharp as the donut. So I want to know why it's like this. Other than that, composition-wise, it's tricky. Why is it tricky? Because you show us 3 fingers. I like to see more of the fingers. I like to see more of the donut. If the donut happens to be the subject, that's one of Matt, by the way. So all the next exposures, they're from Matt. And so yeah, I'd like to see more of the fingers, or nothing about the fingers at all. And remove the donut and just crop the head. That would have been a nice shot. The kid looks really nice. I do see there's a problem with, I'm just zooming around the lip on the left side of the picture. There's a green dot, and I don't know what it is. It doesn't look like he actually ate the donut yet, so I don't know what that is. There's a bit of yellowish, I don't know. So that was shot with ISO 200 millimeter 2.8. So it's a good aperture for the focal length. The histogram shows that it's not overexposed, which it's almost the limit due to the background being so white and the shirt being so white. So I think it's really the limit here. Everything is pretty bright. I would have loved to see, move the mid-tone a bit. Let me actually try. I'm just going to move a tiny bit. Yeah. I would have loved to see, maybe you can play with the highlights, bring the highlights down a bit more. And I don't know, it bothers me that it's nothing on this face is focus. That's the thing that bothers me a bit, and more than the fingers actually. I could do with the fingers, I could accept that. But yeah, the fact that it's no sharpened focus on the eyes, that's, to me, it's too bad. What do you think?
No, I do certainly agree with that. Definitely the donut is the focal point, just the front of it, and I don't even know how he got that. A little bit in focus is that eye, but the donut is definitely the focal point. But he, once again, he did a great thing. He went to 200, as you said. He's at f2.8, shutter speed's up there. I do see the histogram as well, but it looks decently overexposed to me. I was bringing the exposure back a little bit, or just bringing the brightness down a little bit, and it brought a lot more detail back because his shirt is just washed out with the background. That's just very, very, very distracting. The fingers, they don't bother me so much because, I get it. It's a kid with a donut. You know what I mean? I get that. I do. I'm not so much a fan of probably the angle. I maybe wish the angle was a little lower, and maybe he posed the kid a little bit more to where it kind of knocks off, some more of the head to where it's turned a little more. So you just see maybe a little more of the white of the eyes of the other one. So just turn the head a little bit. If you look, there's even, you're talking about, schmutz around the face. I don't mind that, to be honest. I don't mind that whatsoever. I guess it shows me he's been having a good time, etc. So that doesn't bother me. I think this would make a better black and white. I haven't messed with it. But, you just you're losing out in the background a little bit. And if you made this into a black and white, brought up the clarity a little bit, and punch the blacks, add a little bit of contrast, you probably have something. I guess it's a little more pleasing. Yeah, I mean,
it is. I'm doing it as you say. And,
okay.
yeah, it's got, for some reason, I'm thinking about Italy. It gives an Italian aspect of it. Don't ask me why. I don't know. I'm thinking of Italy, especially in black and white. It's the kid. It's got an Italian face to me. And black and white even makes it more, because obviously his hair don't look as blonde as it is, and it's.
If you and I just did a quick one as well. If you see, it does give a slight more outline to his face.
Yeah.
But yeah, you got to work on just making sure you're not washing out. You need a little bit more separation. So just kind of watch out for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So next one, carry on with this one.
Which one? The
is the singer.
The singer one?
Yeah.
There's separation. There you go. That's fine. Let's see. What are you shooting at? The 200 again. ISO looks good. It's a 100 at f2.8, 1/160th of a second. Perfect. You did the right thing. I almost like the crop. I would probably want to see a little more of the mic. Once again, I'm nitpicking a little bit, but the focus actually kind of looks on to me, which is good. There's not much more to say about it. I feel he's lit pretty well for what he is. It doesn't even look like it was taken outside. It could it looked like it was taken in a studio, but obviously you see the reflection in the glasses that it was. So that kind of throws me off a little bit. But yet again, I kind of know what you're going for. But yeah, what do you think?
Same thing about the mic. Not much about the arm. The fact that you crop the arm doesn't bother me that much, because we've got the whole hand, so that's acceptable. The mic bothers me a bit. I like to see the end of it. And yeah, it was shot outside for sure. We can see even a tiny bit of a corner of his elbow. You can see it's darker, a bit greener.
Yeah.
So that clearly you painted off the background, probably using the adjustment brush in Lightroom and using the mask, and you did a good job. Let's be fair on this. You did a good job painting it off, because I'm thinking about the hair. The hair is always a nightmare when you try to do this kind of things, and that's the easiest thing to spot. And I didn't spot it, although I didn't zoom in, but I can see some single hair, and it looks nice. It looks okay. I don't know if I can. No, I can't zoom. It's a bit too small, but it's good. Once again, I don't know where I've got with commercials lately, but if before it was a commercial for Dunkin' Donuts, here I think it's a commercial for Vuonet glasses. It bothers me that you have that right up front. That's the bit that bothers me, because there's a writing. That's how it is. Our eyes are being drawn by anything that's brighter, and then if it matches the third rule lines, and then with anything that is written, we like signs. We wanna understand where you are and get some information. And here, I had to read Vuonet. I wish I hadn't. So that can be done in post production. You can just wash that off. If it was portrait. If it was portraiture, for the models, I would say if you got models that got pierced ears and they're not wearing jewelry, that's just a tip. That's not valuable here. It's not the case. But maybe removing the hole, just remove that in post production. That's just a tip as well, because there's no point of having it. Other than that, maybe the skull. For some reason, he's got a shaving scar or some scar on the chin. That bothers me a bit, because I'm wondering if he went into a fight or if he cut himself this morning and shaving. I don't know. That bothers me a bit. What I would have said as well, the shirt, right? We can see some of the relief of the collar. I wish we could have seen maybe a bit more. Not too much so it gets our attention, but I don't know about it. So I'm not pushing 100% on that. Maybe I'm just wondering how black and white would I work with this. Actually, it works not that bad as black and white. We'd have to play with the tone a bit more, but black and white sells it to me. I don't know if it's because I had some shots of mine done with the French rock band, and I've done some black and white shoots, but on black and white it works better for me because of the mic. For some reason on the mic there's a color, there's a blue color, and that's the only thing that is blue in the picture, and that bothers me. That bothers me a bit. If it had been, yeah, if it had been the same color as the jacket or the shirt, that would have been fine. Same, orange color that would have matched the skin, maybe. White, maybe. Black wouldn't have bothered me. Blue bothers me a bit. And reflection on glasses, that's the only thing that just basically didn't fool me about where you took the shot. So that's it.
I just did a quick black and white, as you said it. If you go into a black and white, you don't notice it as much either. In the glasses, it kind of, I don't know, it just looks like an interesting lighting setup, basically.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It looks much better in black and white, and which is not always the case, right? It suffices to say that all images you shoot in color are not always better in black and white, and very often they're not. So here it's a good one, but portrait, black and white works always very good with portrait. So carrying on, we're going with the dad and a kid on the shoulder. So I'm going with that first. Exposure wise, I don't think I've got anything to say exposure wise on that one. Reflection of glasses a bit, but then it gives some context. Except the green. There's a green reflection on the glasses that bothers me a bit, but that's me being a bit picky on that one. What really bothers me in terms of the framing itself is on the right side, top right side, you can see there's a piece of a tree trunk that I would have removed in post-production. Clone whatever is on the side of it and remove that, so our eyes is not being drawn by the difference of colors and contrast. And the pillar on the left side, it bothers me a bit. If the pillar hadn't been there, because it's plain white and it's kind of blocking the tree trunk that goes, a bit to the left. If I had seen the tree altogether, that would have been fine. That's almost kind of a street photography self-aware kind of. So if it had been street photography, I would have said, yeah, okay. But if it's portrait, that bothers me. If I would even go as far as saying, you know what, let's crop that. Let's crop that, and let's, the way I'm cropping, Eric, here is I'm keeping the top, obviously, but I'm cropping right under, right under his watch. So basically, I want to get all his fingers, and I'm cropping enough from the left so I don't see the white pillar, and yeah. I've got that, and I think that works pretty good. I quite like that. We see everything. We see the limb. It doesn't matter if you don't have the elbow. We don't care about the elbow. We don't care about the shoes either, because we've got the two legs. And what's important here, the subject is the kid, and the kid is centered. I mean, his face is centered. It's nothing to do with the rule of third, which is fine because the rest of the body works good with that. So that doesn't bother me. The crop that I have right now on the screen, that would have worked much better, and after I would have cleaned the trunk on the right side. But that's as far as I would go. Actually, I just realized that he had a toy with him, and that's kind of cute. He's got nice eyes, the kid, and I quite like it. Yeah. Now the glasses for the father bothers me a bit, but that's it. That's all I would say on this. And exposure wise, 2.87 millimeter. It's a good aperture. It did its job. The bokeh is all right. Go ahead.
Oh no, I thought you were going to keep going with that. Yeah, the f2.8 is perfect for this. Bokeh is pretty good. The focal length, I would say, isn't, and you would have seen that with the 200 millimeter. I guess that's kind of, I think I made a crop like you did, and I think it would work really, really well. and that background would turn way more into butter. You wouldn't barely even see the green bits, etc. Yeah, looking at the first one before the crop, as a candid, as a street shot per se, I don't know if he advertised this as a portrait. I think a candid aspect works for this. I mean, he did even intentionally look. There's no poles growing out of the kid's head. The tree isn't sticking out, behind him. You know what I mean, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But maybe if you took a shot like this at 200 millimeters, same thing, same framing, you would see how much of that would be gone. You probably won't even see the pole. But if you took the shot like this, of course it'll bother me a little bit. Background's important. But yet again, if a candid's a candid, you got the shot, awesome. But I would definitely have liked to probably see it tighter. I'm guessing, as Tom has it, that tighter shot from the watch up would have really worked because it definitely draws you in. This is about the kid, and the kid with the toy is perfect, 100% perfect. That'd be, I think you caught a nice little moment here. Maybe if you waited a second or two, the kid would have maybe cracked a smile a little more or something, a little less. But the eye connection, spot on, 100%. To me, the overall tone, though, I get a little green tinge.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's just me, but yeah, I get a little bit of a green tinge to that. But besides that, focus is, on. Settings look nice. I think the crop that you did, and I'll check that in the video when you post it. I think that would work a lot stronger for this image, 100%.
Actually, you just talked about the green. I've tried the green. I didn't like it. What I did though is I changed the temperature. I moved the slider from the yellow and I went into the blue, -19, and that actually quite helped a lot because it gave. I'm going back to the what it helped with the kind of lit up a bit the skin, but not making it as orangey as it looks like. And what bothered me is that the skin was pretty orangey and the overall was pretty orangey. Plus, he wears an orange T-shirt, whereas moving it with the temperature down brings it a little bit more, a bit cooler. And goes well with a pair of jeans that is wearing, yeah. And kind of help blurring the background because he unsaturates a bit the green of the background. So I quite like the results, guys. Matt, don't hesitate. I want to see your feedback in the comments down below. Please tell us what you think. And guys, I didn't see much of comments from other people who didn't take that exposure but didn't comment on the exposure, so please try to give your comments as well. What do you think of the overall exposure, even if it's not yours, especially if it's not yours, and if it's yours, give us some background detail, some story behind the scene, what difficulties you had to face when you took the shot and so on, so we understand a bit more.
But by the way, I don't know if you want to go back to the kid with the donut real quick, but this ties into the next one we'll jump into. If you can, jump back to the kid real quick.
I am, yeah. Black and white, or you want the original?
The original, just so the clarity is pushed way back.
Yeah.
You got to watch out for that. I don't know if we said about that. I don't know if we touched on that, but I looked at the next picture we're going to talk about, and yeah, that's extremely too soft. It's that, plasticky type look, and, going ahead to that next picture of the, of the model, way overdone, extremely overdone. Looks very, very, very fake. Yeah, almost unreal, right?
I have to agree with you. Totally unreal. And now you say that, because I didn't even think of clarity. I thought of Photoshop and doing filter mask and this kind of thing. But here I just moved the clarity by +29, which is huge when you're doing on portrait. That's something that usually in portrait you don't want to increase the clarity. But whatever's been done on post-production, here's another shot from Matt. Clearly, it was a bit too soft for my liking. However, I do not think that the blur was a result of the clarity. Mister with the eye, just check the histogram and check the aperture value.
What's that?
Check the aperture value. It's 1.8.
Yep.
A nifty 50 lens.
I don't even know where the focal point is.
It's hard because now that I brought the clarity, uh, her lips actually got a bit sharper. I tell you what, there's something to do with the hair,
I think it's the top of the hair. If you look,
but the bottom of the hair as well works. Bottom right corner.
no, you're absolutely right. Yeah, I see that.
So it's
Yeah,
either in front of her head, her face. I think it's before her face, or it's
yeah,
after. I don't know. Anyway, it's off.
yeah.
It's off, and
Yeah,
that's a
I
killer.
agree. Yeah,
Yeah, no, I don't have anything else to say because, to me, that's the basic stuff. That's the reason why I covered it in the basics of photography. You need to
yeah,
understand the aperture first before you go into model photography and this kind of thing. Landscape, you don't have too much of that problem because everybody here knows about landscape f16. And everybody put it to f16. I don't have to worry about that because everything that is far, then unless you actually go and pixel peep and go check how sharp the tree is, which is 250 yards away from you, then nobody's going to notice it.
yeah.
Model photography, that's the thing. It's right in front of you, and you're so close that you can't be wrong with that. So where to focus? Well, go for the eyes first, and then we'll do a video about that. But it's yeah, to me it's
Just
that the angle. I like the angle. The angle, it's good. Watch out as well about her nose. That's something that I check as well for models. People are different. Girls are always different. Guys are always different, and you gotta watch out how the angle, the nostril, look to not make them too fat. It doesn't mean that people have fat nose, but depending on the angle, you may end up with a very fatty nose. And here is quite the limit, and I think it's because there's not much light around the face that it's okay. But if it was more lit up, that angle, I don't think it would have worked. I don't think it would have been that flattering for the model.
yeah.
And go a bit more profile so you don't see the other nostril. I'm talking about the left one. Go more profile on that one. And I
Yep.
like the eyes. The eyes are natural. I like that, and not like with this caterpillar false lashes that we see nowadays, especially in UK. I like that. I like the genuine smile. She's got a nicely smile.
Yeah.
And
Good jawline too. I really like the jaw. I mean, just I'm just trying to pick out little stuff for this. Yeah, agree with the fill light. Nice pose, you said. Maybe a little more profile. Nice jawline. I know that's something a lot of people don't realize you should look at is how to jawline and how it actually affects your image. And for a headshot, jawline is key. I don't know if a lot of people know Peter Hurley, but if you look at him, he is all about the headshot, and he's got a DVD about it. But yeah, posing, 101, you want a clear jawline, and it looks like, thought did go into it too. But it's a shame. It's a shame that about the clarity though, 100%.
And one thing I would say, and it's got something to do with Photoshop again. Like I was talking earlier on about, modifying the appearance of the model and correcting a few things. Her two front teeth, I'm picking a bit here, but
No,
because we see there's a space between her lip and the middle of the two teeth, right in the middle. It gives me the feeling that she has two teeth that are pointing but not equally aligned. And I'm not. I don't know if you see what I mean, Eric, but it's.
no. All right,
I would have feel
I
that probably.
no. I see what you mean, but if that's her, and say she is an actress, and you want to give this headshot to a director or producer, they need to know that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For that character. So that if that's how this person is, you said she's got a very nice look, a very genuine smile, etc. If that's who it is, if that's her feature, you have to leave it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't want to fix it per se.
But then if it's a headshot and you want to make her look as better, I think filling those the emptiness that she's got there won't change her. It's still gonna be her, but it's not gonna be so disruptive when looking at a picture. And people will not say when afterwards looking at her in reality that she looks so different from the picture, because we're not talking much here. We're just talking a millimeter, and but
I see what you mean, but that's changing a unique feature about somebody.
but maybe she doesn't have that feature. That's what I'm saying.
No. if it's not her, I absolutely agree. 100% filled in. But I'm saying it looks like it is, and if it is,
Yeah.
I don't think, you know what I mean. I think you should leave it as realistic as possible because that's how someone else is going to view her as, and you know what I mean. That's part of a character. It's part of what makes someone unique.
Yeah. Okay. I agree with that. I agree with that. Going to next. Still Matt. And still Nifty 50 at 1.8. And still,
Those
although
lips are
not that
this sharp.
shocking, but still a problem with focus here again. She's got bright eyes, so it's hard to it's hard to realize that it's not in focus. But to me, the lips are in focus, the eyelashes are not, and she has a nice figure. I like the freckles, and please do not remove them in Photoshop. They are the best thing ever. The red, I don't know if she was carrying a bag of some sort, or if it's just whatever outfit she had. But it bothers me that I don't see the whole white top all across. Just for that sake, the bulker wise, you're outside. That's exactly what it is, right? It's exactly what you expect from a shallow depth of field to blur this disruptive background, and that works good here. The tones are actually good. It kind of match with her face, skin, the hair color. Everything is fine. The eyes, she's got blue eyes. I don't know how much work has been put in brightening the iris because it looks bloody light. But nothing bothers me much beside the red and the focus. Those are the two things. Nice smile, and yeah, the red and the focus. That's all I would say on this one.
Yeah, not much really to add, or etc. The red, first thing I saw. Well, the first thing I saw were the lips being in focus. I actually think that's pretty clear. Yeah, it's that that 1.8. You really got to watch out for that. The red strap, exactly. I wouldn't move the freckles either. I do think the image looks a little bit flat. I upped the exposure a little bit and just put up a little bit more contrast, and it just gave it something a little more livelier. Other than that, yeah, there's nothing else to really add. Nice smile, nice eye contact, nice jawline. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's too much fill-in light, and I think that was the problem with this one. There's too much fill-in, and she's got a pale skin, and that doesn't help to add more. As you say, you had to add some contrast to bring the features a bit more.
Yeah.
So next one is the man and the squirrel in the park. I don't know if it's a self-portrait. I have no idea. This is from Bubsy. Bubsy started sending us stuff last week as well that were interesting. Here, so you don't have the detail. So let me tell you how that was shot. So Bubsy, it went for a 60D. So we're talking about Canon here, which is the same camera as I have. He went for the EFS 17 to 85 millimeters. So that's the second type of kit lens, giving you an aperture of 4 to 5.6. And so that particular exposure was ISO 160, 60 or so per second, 5.6 at 17 millimeter. So, what did he say? 5.6 aperture. Aperture-wise, I would say I quite like it. I think it's a wise one because it gives you sharpness where you want. It doesn't blow the background to a point you don't know where it is. So you don't have this money effect. Money, I'm not talking about money coins, I'm talking about Money the Painter. And I think it's a proper aperture. I like the framing. I like it. Rule of third here. I'm talking about the guy. His body is right on the line. So for those of you watching, I'm actually bringing the crop tool so we can see where the line is. And as you can see, you go right in front on his nose. So that's good. As well, again, we've got another line as well. We've got the horizontal line that goes along his leg. So that's good as well. And a scroll on the other side. I quite like it. I think you could have done, because I don't know, I can't zoom it, so I'm already very zoomed. I don't know how much sharp the scroll is. and I don't know where the focus point was on this one. Maybe 5.6. Maybe that's a bit too shallow, depending on where you took it. Maybe if you focus on the head of the animal, on the eye, then I would have gone maybe with f7, which would have given us, crisp animal, still sharp man, but still the same effect regarding the background. And that was a 17, so it's considered as a, well, it's not a wide, it's a wide angle, but not super wide angle, being a crop factor and all, but it's all right. The bag is disruptive because it's white. It would have been obviously better without the bag. Other than that, I don't know. The fact that the guy, if it's a self-portrait, I don't know. If it was a self-portrait, I would say looking at the animal would have been better. Because there's some action. The animal is eating a nut, which is great. If it's not a self-portrait, then, look either the animal or look the camera. But don't look, somewhere else. It looks like it's almost an interview, and the guy who's holding the camera is not the guy who's asking the question. And, sometimes we see this on telly, and the guy is answering the question and looking at the interviewer. And to us, as a viewer, it looks kind of weird. So that's all I would say on this one. Color-wise, I quite like it. It's desaturated. I quite like it because if the green were brought up more, then the jacket wouldn't look as, there's kind of a match between the jacket and the overall, and I think I'm okay with that. I think I'm okay. It's what do you think?
No, I think I agree. The overall tone of it, the desaturated look, I think works 100% for this. I do think it's a nice moment. I don't think it's a self-portrait because too much moving around, that squirrel would not be standing there. Other than that, that is an awesome squirrel that you found that poses for you and doesn't move. I know you were saying about...
What if it's fake?
Could be. What's that?
If it's a prop. He carries along, it's like he carries his scroll wherever he goes in the world, and they just take a shot of him.
Okay. But besides that, squirrel, the bag does not bother me. I think it actually adds to the character of this image. I really do feel, I feel something from this. You know what? And that's one of the main things you want to do in a photograph. I feel the environment. I don't mind seeing the background. I don't mind it not being blown out. You know what I mean? There's a little bit of bokeh, obviously, but I like the environment. I think it's a very nice setting. The eye line, I do agree. I would have liked to have seen more connection with the camera, with us in the audience. Definitely would have brought it out, the emotion out way more, because you're looking into, the eye of this person. But I really do like the tone. Composition's nice. Way to get down on the level, shooting from your knees, I would guess. Yeah.
It's got a hobo feel to it.
It absolutely, yeah, it does, and that's what
and the bag doesn't. In that context, the bag doesn't bother me. But
no, I'm taking it as a street shot.
Yeah.
This photographer is walking around, and he's through the park, and he sees this guy sitting there, or something like, what I mean, something like that, and that's the vibe I'm kind of getting from this.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
One tiny pick is behind the subject, so behind the man. There's something on the floor, on the ground, kind of a white. It looks like a lace that would be on the ground or something. I would have removed that. That's me being me.
I see what you mean. I thought it was like chalk on the ground or something, but yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah,
but nice, really nice one. And finally, the last one. Wow, that's colorful. It looks like an Indian band. Yeah, go for it. Go first on that one.
I have no metadata though. I don't know.
Oh, sorry. Let me just double check that for you.
Okay.
We're talking about, so it's again from Bubsy, and that was shot with a 60D again. Same lens being the 17 to 85 millimeter, 4 to 5.6, and here that frame was done with ISO 320, a hundredths of a second, and f8 50 mil.
F8. Well, in the last one we were saying, to raise it up from, I think it was a 5.6 or something, just to a little more to an f7. I don't find these, I would say you kind of go down with it a little more because I get you're trying to see the environment 100%, there's some, I guess, some fair. If it kind of sells you on that, I don't know. It just looks like there might be, people eating at a luncheon behind them, and these people are just there, playing. I think I would have liked to seen a little bit more blown out of the background. But you're right, the color, boom, pops 100%. They are, they are in clear focus, obviously, because, the f-stop. I like that, it's a long shot. Her hands are not cut off at the top. I think it is a little bit too wide. I would like to see it compressed a little more. So just a little bit more of a zoom. I might mess with the crop real quick just to maybe cut out the tree or something. You know what? If that tree on the right-hand side was cut out a little bit, I think it would work out a lot more. It might be a little bit distracting. And it gets you closer to, your subject. In regards to photography or videography or anything, I have a background in both. The closer you are to your subject, the more you can relate with them. And I feel that I don't know if you're messing with the crop or not, but if you do that, you'll obviously feel a little bit more connected with them. And zooming in, I wish there was more eye connection between the two guys in the back, but the emotion you're getting from the lady in front is really, really nice. But once again, I like that desaturated tone. The colors pop really nicely. You're getting a sense of the environment, just a little bit less, I'd say, in regards to just to mess with the bokeh more and a little tighter crop.
All right, I agree with you regarding the crop. In fact, as we're talking, I actually cropped it so the man on the right side ended up being on the line of the my third line. So that kind of worked out good because you've got three subjects, and so because you got three subjects, then you can play with having the guy, the middle one, being almost in the middle of your frame. That works fine. The problem I have here. Well, not a problem. First, I would say it all depends what that shot is meant to be. If that shot is kind of a report shot of what kind of exhibit, festival that happens somewhere, then fair enough that you keep that background with all the people and stuff. It gives some, some location, some context as to what it is. And if that's what the aim is, then fair enough. If it is about capturing those three people, disregard what happened, what the event was, disregard what the location is, then, you said you've got, he didn't say obviously, but he wrote that it was a 1785 and he shot at 50 mil. Take a few meters away from the subject, go all the way to the 85 mil. And that's going to compress, and that's what Eric was saying, it's going to compress the background, those trees, it's going to be interesting, it's going to create you a natural backdrop. And that's going to be cool. And you're going to end up with a narrower shot that's going to give you, more power to your subject. Then my other take on this one is, I expect you had very little time to take that shot. I don't expect you, to place your subject. I don't think you actually placed them. If you had, I would have expected the girls somehow to be, away on the left, and maybe on the same line as the guys, or being in the middle between the two guys, kind of a feature between the two guys. But what bothers me here, the bottom line is that she's wearing a veil or a top, and she's playing with it. But for some reason, it kind of covers a bit the guy behind her, and there's not enough space between the two of them, and so that's what bothers me. And the other thing as well is, to me, she was probably moving. Why I'm saying this is because if we look at not the arm that goes up, the other arm, the arm that she's holding a dress with, you can see it's not that sharp, and so I'm suspecting that it's not due to the aperture value, unless your focus point was the man in the middle. And if the man in the middle was your focus, then the lady at the front, she's only in focus because you're lucky. Because of that, and I think that could be it. But if you focused on the lady first, then her arm, there's no reason for a front arm to not be in focus. And it's not in focus. So what I'm thinking is she was maybe moving.
Well, what's the shutter again? I'm sorry.
It was 100s. And so that's where I was going at, is that you have 100s and you use the ISO 320. You're outside, bring the ISO to 400 and you get well, no, 400. Yeah, let's say 400 or even 500. And as you're going to be able to increase your shutter speed to 150 or 200 or maybe higher, but even 150th of a second, that 50th of a second is not much in terms of light, but it's going to freeze your moment a bit more. She's not dancing like crazy here, and that would have been just enough to get, you know, those pearls. I'm looking at the pearls that she's got on her sleeve on the left, and they're not quite sharp, so I would have loved to see that because she's beautiful and she's got a beautiful dress. In terms of the color, I think she's a bit washed off for some reason. Comparing to the guys, it's not the same colors, but the detail she's wearing, I don't know if it's jewelry, I don't know if it's part of a dress, but it's a bit, you know, I would love to see a bit more, being more crisp and to see it more. So it might just be the problem of the focus that we just talked about. Other than that, I quite like it. I don't like the dude is wearing trainers when the two others are wearing.
I just saw that. I just saw that too. I was like, interesting. Okay.
So I'm just glad that he was not on his phone with his BlackBerry. But but no. Other than that, I think it's a cool shot. Yeah, it's just the focus thing on this one. So yeah, that's all for this one. So. Overall, if I had to pick, and Eric is going to do that as well, let's pick the favorite of the week. Just, guys, give us a couple of seconds just to review quickly what it is. I'll let you review, Eric, on your side. I'm just reviewing quickly here.
Okay.
It's difficult for my part. It's difficult because I have to go. The best of the week is not meant to be the potential of the week, right? It needs to be the best of the week. And that being said, to me, there's been some mistakes made with some shots in terms of aperture value that really damaged heavily the exposures. It's difficult because I've just said that, and I quite like the self-portrait of Matt. But Matt was last week. No, but it's not because of that, but because it's not sharp. Looking at it as a thumbnail, it would have been my shot of this week again. And I think, Matt, I can half applaud you for that shot when I see your exposure as a thumbnail. Yep. Looking at it real, and we need to keep it real here. It's difficult. It's difficult. It's between the kid with the dad and the zombie.
With or without the crop, though?
What?
With or without that crop?
Oh, no. We need to, you know, that's the same thing. We need to keep it the way it was provided to us. And yeah, the crop is a killer on this one. But the zombie one, it's a problem. Like, there's great things about all of them, but they're potential, right? They've got great thing. I'm looking at the castle. It's great, but the water is not. The car is... There's some stuff. Everything is.
I've got a solid, and I've got I got a solid number 1, and then like a 1.5.
Okay, go for it.
Number 1, and as I saw this, I mean, once again, I think the focus is almost on, but in regards to it, I think the feeling you get from it, etc. It's not posed. Is the Bobsy one and the park, the guy sitting down with the squirrel. I really like the tone of it. I think I get that vibe. Like, it's like you're there with them. Once again, there was something in each, and there usually always kind of is. There's something in each that, you wish was stronger, but I feel the tone and, the color of this and, everything, it really works for this. My 1.5 is the zombie. And I think this, by Eric, I think if the legs were dirty and there wasn't so much distortion, this would kind of almost blow me away, in a way. But just because of that, of that little bit, I'm feeling the other one more. Just because I feel like this, obviously I know it's fake, but it looks fake in the zombie one because, I'm not sold. But in the other one, as you said, it does kind of, look like a candid. And you know what? I'm big for candids and something like that, and I get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. and it's interesting because I'm always thinking of, you know, what I could publish on my online gallery, and the point is, you know, selling as a print, and here I need to change that. You know, last week it would have worked. I could have sold the exposure Mark did of his dad. That was right on. I could publish that and sell it.
Yeah.
Here, going with the street photography aspect of it, I have to agree with you. I have to agree that Bubsy's shot of the squirrel is the one that necessitate the least changes to get a great shot. And just for that, and because of that squirrel, man, if there was no squirrel, you'd be bottom. No. But no, it's really because of the squirrel. It's as crazy as they are, I think they're beautiful, and they're not just rats. They're really, really nice, and just for that. And yes, my second choice, it's difficult. I think my second choice would have been for the castle, just because, you know,
I mean,
if the only complaint is the water, then it's and that was it, right? The only complaint was the water, and I think I would have gone probably for that. And in fact, I prefer the castle more than the street photography, but that's because of my background. But
once again, I'm more of a person background too, so that's why it's kind of cool to get, you know, that different aspect.
absolutely.
Yep.
So I think we've got two winners this week. We've got the Bubsy shot, and we've got the castle, and that's it. And really, you know, guys, that's been the longest video ever that I've done, and I don't think I'm not gonna edit anything of it, because it's I think it was great information. I think we gave you a lot of tips as well, whether it's more than I expected. I think it was it's a full-on video, and that's thanks to Eric Rossi, the man with the eye, who was very kind to assist me here. And I think that's something I will do again and again. Maybe not each week, because otherwise you guys are going to be sick and tired, and you need to not be spoiled. But I will have other photographers as well, other photographers who are going to assist me in the future. And this is a 1 hour 36 minutes video, and I hope to keep all that in. And until next time, just bear in mind, at the moment you're seeing this, the submission for next week will be open. So I'm looking forward to two things. I'm looking forward to your next exposures for next week, and to comments, your reaction on YouTube, and go crazy with that. And I hope you guys appreciated the feedbacks that we've given you. Whether you agree or not, please let us know what you think. And you know how to reach Eric. His detail will be in my description, as well as on the screen. If you want to reach him, he's got a YouTube channel. For those of you who are not aware of that, he's got an amazing YouTube channel. If you want to know of you know, what the latest thing is, really, that's how I use Eric's channel. You know, if you want to know about that camera, which everybody talks about but never been seen, if you want or just been released, and these kind of things. If you want to know what a 5F of photographies are, here you go. That's an intrigue. Go check it out. And that's basically it for today. So thank you very much, everybody. Thanks, Eric. I'll talk to you soon. And until next time, this is Tom Migot saying, if you like it, well, capture it.